Welcome to The Ride with Chevy and Nasty. Host Randy Chevrier and Sheldon Napashka guide you through great stories that spark great conversations. Two really big guys talking a big game. The boys are locked in and ready to go. Welcome to The Ride.
Welcome to The Ride, everybody. It's episode 51. Randy, how are you feeling tonight?
I am doing awesome, Sheldon. I am so excited for tonight. I'm excited for this entire week, but especially been excited for the show tonight, the 51st episode. Alondra Johnson, your former teammate, Hall of Famer. I believe he had 14 years. Was it 14 years as a Stampeder?
Some insane, ungodly number. But yeah, we got a bunch of good stuff lined up for you guys tonight. As always, we want to thank our sponsors, YYC Calgary Business, Performance Freight Management, and of course, We Drone Real Estate Media. Where do you want to start off, Chef?
Well, let's start off with telling the folks what's in store for the night. We got a great episode tonight. We are going to be welcoming a good friend, Rob Kerr. We put that on the social media. So our good friend, Rob Kerr, we're going to have him on in the second segment. We have a big announcement, a big announcement that we're going to get to shortly. Talk a little bit about Chick-Fil-A opened up in Calgary. And well, Trey was the only one of the three of us that got to go. So he'll give his review. The Blitz, CFL playoffs, how do we do? And going into Grey Cup weekend, studs and duds. Movies that don't need sequels. And of course, Sheldon, as we do every week, we are going to kick this off in style with a little bit of 300-pound poetry.
And now, 300-pound poetry with Chevy and Nasty.
We are the 300-pound poets. Our rhymes aim to deliver. When we walk into the buffet, you can feel the place quiver.
We've got a great show, as we feel we do most Tuesday nights. We're welcoming our great friend, Rob Kerr, and we're talking football and fights.
And there are lineups for Chick-Fil-A. Can their food be that good? Or has it just become an overhyped U.S. restaurant that opened up in our Calgary hood?
Jake Paul represents the new. Mike Tyson represents the old. Some think Paul can go the distance, and others believe he'll get knocked out cold.
And we've got a huge announcement. This is the excellence of execution. We're going live on Grey Cup Sunday. And could this be the next step in our evolution?
Could be. We're glad you could join us for another wild ride this week. This is our 51st consecutive live episode, and that is quite a commendable streak. If I do say so myself, Nasty, that's a great streak. We're going to get to our big announcement in a second, but want to welcome all of you that are joining us. We got Rubio, we got Bruno, Daryl, Jamin. You guys know that we're live every week on the Chevy and Nasty YouTube page, Facebook page. We're so happy you can join us. And we are excited because this weekend, Sheldon, not only are we doing our show like we're doing tonight, it's Grey Cup. We're excited. We got a crazy harebrained idea that we decided we were going to go live, not just from any place, not just from the comfort of our living rooms, but we are going to do a live show, you and me in person, face to face.
Yep.
In a very special location. None other than the best there was, the best there is, the best there ever will be. Bret the Hitman Hart's Bar and Restaurant. We will be live Sunday from 12 till 2 doing the Grey Cup pregame show. You can find it here live on all our streaming, but you can come and meet us. We want you to come down. It's going to be a full day of Grey Cup party with our show, then the pregame of the CFL's Grey Cup, and then obviously the Grey Cup and the excellence of execution. Bret the Hitman Hart is showing up himself. Sheldon, you excited?
Oh, very excited. So excited. And this came together so fast. And first off, I just wanted to say thanks, Randy and Trey, for setting this up. And Bret, for making this thing happen for us. Brother, I'll tell you, this was so exciting. We've been wanting to do another live event. We did the movie hall in Cochrane, which was awesome, but we didn't get to stream from there. Now we get to go down to Hitman's Bar, stream for 2 hours, and then he's going to be there with us, guys. So we're going to be sending out more of this on our socials as the week goes on, setting up an event. But this is an awesome opportunity if you don't already have plans for Grey Cup. And of course, you don't have plans this cool for Grey Cup. So come on down, join us at a Hitman's Bar, catch the show, stick around for some food, a chance to hang out, meet the Hitman. We've got a bunch of Stampeders coming along as well. We don't have the full lineup confirmed, or maybe we do. Chevy, you can keep me posted on that. But guys, this is going to be awesome. Like, this is going to be awesome.
I'm excited, Sheldon. As you can see, I've got my Hitman jersey. That's my, the Calgary Hitman, named after Bret the Hitman Hart. I've got a pair of signed autograph Hitman shades from the Hitman himself. These are bona fide shades. His autograph's up there somewhere in the corner. I got my little Hitman right up on the top over my shoulder. I'm an idol. He's my idol. He's also a friend of mine. Last week, I was, it was right after the show. I saw the Hitman Bar announce the Excellence of Execution going to be there. And I was like, guys, actually, I don't even think I told you guys. I just asked Bret. I said, Bret, do you think your guys would like us at the bar? And he said, well, I think that's a great idea. Now, he doesn't run the bar. They've got his name.
He's a name on the side. He's
attached, but he doesn't run the thing like that. So he had to clear it with his manager, Jamal. We've been on that, man. We've been working the lines, all of us, all week to put this thing together. Like you said, we're still finalizing the roster. We got Aaron Crawford, Calgary Stampeders long snapper, showing up. He's on the poster. He's bringing some friends, asking a couple of alumni. We want you guys to show up if you're in town and you don't have plans, even if you have plans for the game. Even if you're going to do something during the game, come from 12 to 2. The bar opens from 12 to 2. Come and hang out with us. We're gonna sign some autographs. We'll bring our jerseys, bring the Grey Cup rings. Got some Stampeders. Great food, great drink. The Hitman Bar was so gracious and so on board with this, and this could lead to some great things. As you said in the poem, could this be the next step in our evolution? I sure hope so, Sheldon.
Well, and that's just it. And like you said, like Bret's become a friend of yours. You guys have done a lot of work with the Pink Power and different initiatives over your years in Calgary. But you know what? Sometimes we forget just what a worldwide phenomenon star he was. Because obviously in this one, it's, guys, when you're setting up, you guys that's stuck with us from the beginning, remember how Chevy and I started, how hard it was to figure things out. Well, now we're going live, multiple cameras, potentially. So we had to reach out to our network and see who all would get behind this. And I was so happy to say Kurt Patio, my friend and my wife's cousin from Regina, was like, oh my God, I need to be involved. The first thing he did is said, let me know what I can sponsor. I'm going to get behind this. Second of all, I've got a family event on Saturday night, but Sunday morning after they leave my house, I'm flying up to Calgary to meet the Hitman. And you know what he's bringing with him, Chev? You've got your autographed glasses. Kurt Patio, for his birthday, his wife got him replica WWE heavyweight belt, and he's planning to bring that to get signed. He just got that this summer. I mean,
so he's excited. Look at
guys our age, guys 40 to 60 that were watching wrestling back then. Bret the Hitman Hart was one of the biggest names, the biggest stories, the biggest stars in professional wrestling, and it's just awesome to be able to do an event with him.
And we're kicking off the Grey Cup party at his bar. What a great, this is a big opportunity for us. I'm not going to lie. It's a big opportunity. You know what else is a worldwide phenomenon, Sheldon? Chick-fil-A.
What's that? Oh,
Chick-fil-A.
For sure. Yeah.
Chick-fil-A. So here I am. I hear all about this Chick-fil-A. Trey talked about it. You talked about it. My son told me he couldn't get in. My son was telling me last week when they opened, the first 100 customers would get food for life. I tried to go today for lunch, Sheldon. It was like Disneyland when you go to the most popular ride at Disneyland and there's a snaking row of people, but it wasn't a snaking row of people. It was a snaking row of cars. They had 30 security guards there with batons waving people in car, like 2x2 cars rolling through two commercial sized lots because of the amount of car traffic and foot traffic blocking. Like, I couldn't believe what I saw. Now, I couldn't get a sandwich. I went there, I took some pictures. I didn't get a chance to go in because when I saw the foot traffic line, it was ridiculous. You made an attempt. You didn't get in.
Well, when you told me, and I called you to ask, Chev, do you have any strategies to make this happen? You're like, dude, it's every man for himself. Just listen to the security guards. And I was like, okay, Chev, you went at lunch. I wasn't going until 3 o'clock. I was picking my kid up after school. It was the same thing. I managed to pull in you can't pull into the lot. Obviously it was 2 packs. So you had to drive past, I think it was sleep country.
Yeah.
And at the far end of that, they'll let you in sort of between the other two more industrial buildings, and you got to weave your way around. And we just got there. There was no way you couldn't tell the difference between where you could park to, because everybody was in a running vehicle. It was madness. It was madness. And I was so excited about it because we're big chicken guys. We like our chicken sandwiches. We're so excited today to pick these up and eat them. But we had to make the call. It's going to have to wait. Is it as good as they say? I don't know.
So, well, listen, Trey had a chance to eat it. We want to make sure that we understand, is this sandwich worth it? Trey, can you just pop on the screen? Let us know, because we got to move along. We got lots going on. Trey, give us your 30-second review of the sandwich before we move on.
I could give you a even quicker review. Better than Popeyes.
Okay.
Sauce is to die for. The sandwich was to die for. The drink, they call it a Sunjoy. It's the sweet tea, like the American iced tea with the lemonade, half and half, to die for. I understand the hype, and I was on board. The price was no different than any other restaurant you go to nowadays. So 2 thumbs up, 5 stars, 10 out of 10. It was worth the hype for me.
I want to keep you on for one more second because I got a question for you. You can also famously customize your order. Did you get the plain chicken sandwich? Did you get the spicy? Did you get the ultimate with the veggies? Did you just throw on a slice of cheese? Like, what's your order there?
The spicy deluxe sandwich. So like spicy chicken with the lettuce, tomato, cheese, and then I got a couple of Chick-Fil-A sauces and dumped them on.
Which sauces?
The waffle fries. I'm just a Chick-fil-A. I was
Chick-fil-A sauce?
all for the Chick-fil-A sauce. One of my buddies got the Polynesian sauce, and it was good too. But yeah, the Chick-fil-A sauce, we went there for the sauce, and it lived up to the hype. So
well, listen, I'm with Rubio on this, and no matter how tasty a sandwich can be, thanks Trey. No matter how tasty a sandwich can be, it's not worth more than a 10-minute wait. It might be great, it might be good, but if you got to wait 40 to 50 minutes for a sandwich, you're nuts. There was a Burger King A&W across the street. I would put a Papa Burger up against that sandwich, and the convenience any day of the week. I haven't had it yet, so maybe I'm speaking a little too soon, but there is no sandwich that is worth a 45-minute wait in that chaos. It was chaos. There was more security. There was more security there than there was when Trump was speaking. It was in Pennsylvania when they shot at him.
Yeah.
There was more security for a chicken sandwich. It was ridiculous.
In fact, I might have spotted snipers on the roof across the street, but it's something though. But you know what? I'll tell you. To me, it's not just a sandwich. I mean, I can't believe they used to have in the airport here in Calgary, right? Yeah. But this isn't one of the places I've ever gone to in another city. I never started getting into the craze until I guess the media starts filling you with it. And you hear it's the best of the chicken sandwiches, which for me, I've got Popeyes up there. I think the Mary Brown spicy chicken sandwich is even better. But like Trey said, if this is that good, if it's right up there and maybe better, is it worth the wait? I don't know. I'm glad I went to see it because it was a spectacle to behold, but I think I'm going to wait a couple of weeks for this to die down.
Yeah, it's like a great movie. I mean, I like being the first guy at a movie theater, but I also don't mind waiting if I got to wait or sit behind a bunch of people. Like if I could get a fast pass in, then I'll go have it when it starts. But
I checked to see if you could order online or Uber Eats, and you can't do any of that. They want to keep it exclusive.
Yeah, and there'll be another one. There'll be another one that opens up. But you know what is worth the wait, Sheldon? You know what is worth the wait? We thought it was going to hit this summer. Netflix special. We mentioned in the poem, Jake Paul, Mike Tyson. It got postponed. It was supposed to happen in July. Then Mike Tyson had an ulcer flare up that forced him to postpone the fight. It kind of snuck up on us, but it's this Friday. This Friday, live on Netflix. I believe it's 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern. I think there's one undercard. But Sheldon, I watched episode 1 of the documentary last night because I guess it really did sneak up on me. And Trey kind of reminded us. Man, after watching just one episode of the documentary where they kind of talk about where Mike Tyson came from and Jake Paul came from, I am excited for this. Are you excited to watch this event?
I was before, then I forgot, and now I am again. I watched the first 2 episodes. So like I'm almost binging this right now and can't wait. We're probably going to set up a Friday night watch party here. It's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, there's no doubt. Jake Paul I always knew was just like, kind of the jerk, loudmouth kid that took over YouTube back in the day. But I'll tell you what, watching this, he's a serious athlete. He has dedicated his life to the sport. He's trained hard. He's beaten a lot of really skilled fighters, but he's yet to take on and beat a boxer.
Yeah,
Chev.
The co-main event here is between two of the greatest women's boxers in the world, Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano. They talked about that yesterday in the documentary.
Rematch.
But listen. We could talk about this all we want. It's going to happen Friday. I'm going to watch the other two documentaries this week while we prepare for our live Grey Cup episode at Hitman's Bar. But Sheldon, the question is this. It all boils down to this. Jake Paul's been running his mouth. Jake Paul has been, he's younger for sure. He's been having these boxing matches, these amateur/pro boxing matches. He fought a couple of ex-MMA guys, maybe a former pro boxer. Listen, the question is, does Jake Paul even have a chance, or is Mike Tyson washed up and Jake Paul is going to go the distance? What do you think? Because that's all people want to know.
Okay, first off, Mike Tyson is not washed up. I mean, he's in the prime of his life as far as a 58-year-old could be, and he's training for this thing. When this thing first got announced, I was like, come on, man. Like, I can tell you the difference between when I was 30 and 32 in how my body can move and things like that. But I've thrown myself into the mind of an ex-athlete, and I would watch his training. He's so dialed in. It's all been coming back to him. He's not going to execute at the high level that he used to. But you know what? Jake Paul has only been in the sport for 4 years. He's an amazing athlete. He's an amazing athlete, but he's not trained. He's not pro. And Chev, there's a big difference between amateur and pro. And there's a big difference between a guy that got hungry and went after to become a fighter versus a Mike Tyson who he was born a killer.
He was born a killer. Trey says it here. And this is what this fight points out. There's a whole generation that doesn't understand the animal that Mike Tyson was. I mean, they showed some of his knockouts just in the documentary, and you're like, oh, shoot, this dude was a bad man. Jake Paul is not a bad man. Jake Paul's fights were put together so that he would be successful. They're for hype. But Trey never witnessed Mike Tyson in his prime when he was 18 years old, killing grown-ass men. And Trey is one of those guys that think Mike won't last with Jake Paul, the young Jake Paul. But what Trey doesn't understand is Mike does not have to last. He has to land that one punch that will send Jake Paul into yesterday. And he's going to open up with a body. He's going to open it up with a body punch that he's never felt before. And Jake Paul's going to be countered in a way that he hasn't even seen. He can't even practice in training. It's just, just like Daryl says, you ever watch those movies where there's the old guy at the bar and he doesn't want to mess with anyone. Then the young punks come in, they challenge him. And, he looks like he's old. He looks like he's washed up, worn out, a little drunk, a little rough around the edges. And then all of a sudden they challenge him and then they wake him up and he destroys them. You've seen that in every movie and you're going to see it Friday night. That's what I think. I don't believe the youth know what they're in for when they're pulling for Jake Paul against Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson is ferocious. He never lost a step. You see his training videos. It sure is going to be a great spectacle. I'm excited for it, but I think at the end, Mike Tyson's going to show us what the 80s were all about. It's going to be a must-see for sure, Chev. And I honestly, I'm so excited about this. I can't wait to see it. But guys, we're going to take a quick break right now. Make sure, as always, you guys check us out on our socials. If you're not already subscribed, just hit the subscribe button. But even hit a few likes here. And if you're up for it, guys, hit the share button. We're trying to grow this community here. But yeah, now it's time. Grab a quick snack. When we come back, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Rob Kerr.
Performance Freight Management is a global logistic freight shipping company that will handle the entire shipping process for any package to any country. Whether it be a simple truck shipment from your office to Toronto or your company importing generators from China, PFM Freight handles it all. We have the expertise and technology to handle any shipping requirements. Skip the guesswork and let us take the shipping pain off your plate.
Welcome back to the ride with Chevy and Nasty. We're on live every Tuesday night from 10:30 p.m. onward. I mean, usually we finish by midnight, but you never know. We always got some overtime. We also had our big announcement tonight. We are going to be live and in person from the Hitman's Bar this Sunday, November 17th for the Grey Cup pregame show. And that will run, our show will run from 12 p.m. Mountain Standard Time to 2 p.m. Then it's going to lead right into the CFL's pregame coverage and then right into the game. And the man, the myth, the legend himself is going to be there, Brett the Hitman Hart. We're going to be joined by Aaron Crawford and a host of Stampeder friends, trying to line up some other guests between now and Sunday. It's going to be a great event. If you haven't been to the Hitman's Bar, it's inside the Cowboys Casino. It is adults only, so you got to be 18 and over. But even if you have plans for the game, come from 12 till 2. Come and hang out. Get an autograph from some Stampeders. Come and shake our hand. We want to shake your hand. All of you out there, thank you for joining us. We have a loyal following. All the people out there from Ernie to Diane to Todd to Bruno, Daryl. We even have Rubio there and Jamin. So many people tune in live and then download us. But, the one guy that tunes in almost every week, a good buddy of ours, I was kind of surprised, Sheldon. I looked in this morning and they released the list of the 25 sexiest bald men in the world. And on that list, number one was Prince William, British royalty. In the top 10, there was Vin Diesel, which I could see that. Sure. I think Jason Statham, he's a sexy bald man.
Is The Rock in there?
The Rock is number 2. Yep, Danny DeVito made the top 10, but you know who didn't make the top 10? And I'm quite surprised that he didn't beat out Danny DeVito. You know who didn't make it?
Who didn't make it?
Chris Rubio. Rubio. Rubio, of all the sexy bald men in the world, how come?
Oh, look at that. Yeah, look at that.
Like, if I'm looking at the sexy bald men here,
it's a number 3 at least.
You know what? I would say Rock is number 1. I think Chris Rubio can leapfrog the Prince there, and definitely above. Yeah, but Danny DeVito, I mean, he's got hair. He makes it work. But my gosh, we don't give any love to Chris Rubio, one of the sexiest bald men I know with the yellow shirt. Chris, you got robbed. But Sheldon, moving on. We're not having Chris to talk about his baldness, but we are going to have our good friend, Rob Kerr, legend in Calgary broadcasting, legend in the Calgary community, does so much. Not only does he have a full head of hair, he's got a full beard. Rob, welcome to the ride with Chevy and Nasty. Oh, there's a note from Trey. It says,
so you're cutting out, but there is no Rob Kerr. Are we getting another Jesse Lumsden experience here? I'm wondering.
Yeah, well, Trey will follow up with Rob. As Trey, Rob is here. Trey, you got to put Rob on the show. He's not here. Oh, there he is.
It just chases me. It doesn't matter. I'm in the business. I'm out of the business. But for some reason, my big feet keep kicking plugs out. And here we are. I delay my debut on what's this thing called? The Chevy and Nasty Bicycle.
The Ride.
The Ride, right. The Ride. Okay.
We've evolved.
For a minute, I thought it was Guy Fieri's, dives, pizza barns, and udders.
That's coming next.
We were talking about chickens and stuff like that, but here we are. Yeah, Chevy, you are cutting out. It's terrible. I got to be honest with you. For a man who spent so much time and so much paper giving me a colonoscopy to come on this show, the least you could do, the minimum you could do, is make sure that you have quality internet. That's all I ask. If I'm going to stay up 4 hours past my bedtime, the least you can do is make sure your technology works.
Unbelievable. Unfortunately,
I love this is a legendary take by Rob Kerr. You just got cussed out by Rob Kerr.
As he should.
You know what?
You know what? To come on this program, I had to endure 1,232 texts.
Okay, here you go. This is it. Live television. You guys talk. I'm going to tell off my kids because I'm going to tell my kids off because I need internet now. I'm embarrassed. I'm
yes,
Sheldon.
Well,
welcome to the show. Tell our listeners about it.
I'm sure they're making TikTok videos and the YouTubes and stuff like that. And here we are. We finally got rid of him. That's all it took.
There you go.
So we just needed to get after him about his Wi-Fi capabilities, and he'd leave.
Yeah, there you go. Rob, I'll tell you what. Every time, and I've run into you a few times over the years, but here's the number one thing that I remember when Chevy and when you were in with the Fan 960, Sportsnet 960, the Fan.
Yeah.
You were always interviewing and rubbing elbows with the Flames, the Stampeders, any team that came through town. You've seen it all. You've been there. You've interviewed everybody. People relied on your takes going into seasons, into games. But you know what? Along the way, you found the time for these, two goofballs that you invited onto your show that one Friday, Football Friday. And
at the corral. During indoor motorcycle racing, where we all got high off the fumes of the gasoline because they didn't vent the building.
Yeah, maybe the being high off the fumes might have been the reason why you gave us a shot. But you gave us a segment or two.
Quite honestly, it was an interest. I'll never forget it because you guys sat there. We were literally up in the press box in the corral, and it was, the dirt was just dusty and dirty because they had motocross racing in there, so the dirt was kicking up. And I remember you two guys just patiently waiting, and you came on, and you guys had right from the get-go, you had an enthusiasm for it. Working with the Stampeders at that time was, there you go. That's more recent though. That's still this
all we
series
had
of webs and internet and stuff. Yeah, but I mean, back when you guys were kind of breaking into this, I mean, it was back when, the Stampeders really were just the best group to be around. Like, you guys did interviews, you guys promoted the product, you had fun with it. And you guys right from the get-go showed an enthusiasm. And I wasn't going to get in your way. I mean, you can see right from the get-go, all I'm going to do is hold it up. So I just got the hell out of the way. And you guys invented 300-pound poetry, which to this day, I still remember coming down to the McMahon Stadium after practice just to record that.
Well, I remember, I'm going to tell you, first of all, I remember when Sheldon and I first got to start, and I said, Rob, we should have a show. And you're like, well, what's the name? And right out the spot, we're like, Chevy and Nasty. And you're like, okay, next segment's yours. And I remember that. I'll never forget. We were playing the Ottawa Renegades. Their running back was Josh Ronick, and Kerry Joseph was a quarterback. And we went for a full segment talking about chasing Kerry Joseph and stopping Josh Ronick, and then went from there. And the 300-pound poetry, I'll never forget. We were in the basement of the Saddle Dome. And I said, hey, guys, I got this idea. How about we do a poem where we recap last week's sporting events? And you both looked at me like I was absolutely nuts. They're like, oh, Chevy, why don't you write one? And then we'll see if we could do it sometime. And I was like, well, it just so happens. And I pulled it out. You guys looked at me, and I was like, where can we record it? And you're like, no, you guys got to go live. And I remember Sheldon looking at me, we're going live with this. And that's where it started. But yeah, thank you for giving us our start.
But I'm going to say one last thing.
You're all welcome, I guess. It's not so much you two; it's everybody that's watching this right now. I'm responsible for that. That's a heavy burden.
You rewrote the media game. You were so far ahead of your time, because not only were you bringing on athletes to have shows, giving up your own time, but that translates into the future of all these podcasts that you see all over the place just a few years later. You always push us on, make sure you get on Twitter and do stuff. I was and write blogs. I was always horrible for that. But you also had this bit that I remember, the talking goalie.
Yeah.
I mean, that's TikTok, man. You invented the material for TikTok, broadcasting a game live with your goalie equipment on.
I've never seen a dime for that. That actually is not the exact way it happened. This all lays at the feet of two people, and that's Perry Berezan and Colin Patterson, Flames alumni who for many years during the 90s and early 2000s in Calgary ran an event for kids sport called the Pond SO 3-on-3 Pond Hockey. And they would bring players who played one game, 1,000 games, it didn't matter. And they'd bring them together for a 3-on-3 tournament. And it's funny you say about how I was kind of cutting edge. I'm content to this day that if it wasn't for the SO 3-on-3 Pond Hockey tournament, 3-on-3 overtime probably wouldn't have happened. There was enough general managers during the lockout in 2005 that played in that tournament. Coaches, guys like Craig McTavish were playing. There's all kinds of people that came through it. So I think people, were exposed to it there. And they just said, hey, we want to promote the game against the Calgary media. We know you're a goalie. Do you mind doing play-by-play at the same time? And I said, sure. Why wouldn't I? And, we did it with the media, and I'll never forget. It was at Olympic Plaza downtown across from City Hall. And I got an Oilers practice jersey and I put that on. So I went straight, right into villain and heel and, played it up, and we had a ton of fun. And, Perry said, well, why don't you come to the actual event? And, you won't play, but you can dress and you can do play-by-play for, for some of the games. And Kelly Kirsch, who will come up a number of times in this conversation, said, sure, we'll put it on the radio. So I went down there, was fully geared up, but I believe it was Rick Wamsley that was playing for the Flames, and Ben Wamsley didn't play for the Flames anymore, and I got put in. And it was on the radio, and I was doing play-by-play, and I want to say it was the Toronto Maple Leafs alumni. So Mike Krushelnyski was one of the guys that came in on me. And then, we did a little bit more. It grew from there, but it's to me, this was always about giving people something different. This was always about going to places that not everybody was going to, and things that they couldn't do. And I just loved trying the technology and seeing if it could be done.
Yeah. Well, you did a great job at that, Rob. And again, Jamin, one of our loyal listeners, says Rob has the most Flames knowledge literally possible. And a lot
that is not even close to being true, because I still have coffee with Peter Marr all the time, and I still pray at the altar of Peter Marr. Pete's the man. And another guy that just hung him up this past week, another friend of mine, and he could put me to shame, was Eric Dahachuk, who covered this team from its infancy and its arrival in Atlanta. But I appreciate that. It's very kind of you to say. To me, I loved that period of time where sports talk radio was fairly fresh in this market, and the team had rebounded and it meant something again, and it had value again, and it was really cool to be part of that, and just kind of be along for the ride. So it's very kind words, but there's lots of guys with more knowledge than me. I just had access to books and eventually the internet.
Yeah,
which Randy apparently doesn't have.
Yeah,
who knew?
Yeah, that's crazy. Starting off in that business without the internet, it just blows my mind. But the other thing, looking back to Rob, is we were just young punks when we were interacting with you on the show, right? And I didn't realize that football players, you're playing a game, but it's show business.
Yeah,
I thought if we used to when we got our first show with you, like, how hard can this be? Let's talk about sports. Let's just go do it. But your job, you were in the show business industry, like 100%. You were
performing.
You're performing, and along with that comes goals, aspirations, and your love of hockey and the Flames.
Mm-hmm.
You were pursuing. I think you always kind of had it in you. You wanted to be the voice of the Flames.
Yeah.
And then you got an opportunity for one point for just a little while within a transition period. Talk about what was that like, going from an afternoon on-air personality to your fight calls with the Flames onto being the play-by-play guy.
Yeah, my dream was like everybody else's. Growing up in Alberta, I listened to Peter Marr and Rod Phillips in the 80s, right, in the glory years, and it was just, to me, radio was the medium that I always wanted to work in. I wasn't a writer. I wasn't pretty enough for television. Radio was where I wanted to be, and grew up and created opportunities for myself. Did a lot of play-by-play work in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League and the AJHL. Was part of an upstart in 2000 up in Edmonton called AnySportAnytime.com, which was really 20 years ahead of its time, because we were streaming second-tier sports, ACAC hockey, high school football, sprint cars and things like that. At the time we were using Real Player as the method or the technology. So imagine, here we are having this conversation on a computer with pictures, and Trey's putting up graphics. He's doing a great job, by the way, as a producer. He's much, much better than you two deserve. But back then, you would literally stare at your computer and hear the audio. You couldn't move anything. You couldn't run anything. You couldn't do anything else because it would shut down the computer. So we couldn't monetize it, but we did it. And that play-by-play was always in my blood. And then, I got an opportunity when Peter Marr went into the Hall of Fame, got the Foster Hewitt Award in 2006 he was on the ice to be honored his first game back. And he asked me to cover the first couple of minutes in the booth. And it was, Calgary taking on St. Louis. And I'll never forget, Damon Lanko scored a goal. So I got to call a goal. And then Darren McCarty got into a fight. And what was kind of really cool was Darren McCarty said on the postgame show that he knew that I was going to be doing the game. And when he had the fight, he looked up to the press box because he thought I might have fallen out. Early on in my career, I had a reputation for being this over the top fight caller. And, you talk about transition and things like that. And back then, guys, I had, I loved that. I thought it was, I defend fighting to the 18th degree, and, it was part of the game. And it was only over time that you learn about concussions and brain damage and CTE and things like that. And, I've changed my tune, but that really got me on the map. And then, in 2011, June 6th of 2011, I got the call from Sportsnet, and they said, "Hey, we're making a change in the booth. We want you to be the new play-by-play guy." I'd done some pay-per-view for the Flames. Was not expecting it all. Worked for 3 years, 1.5 year, because one of them was a half year because of the lockout. Worked with Charlie Simmer and Roger Millions, and I got to know a lot of really cool people. Just wasn't good enough at the end of the day. Just plain and simple, wasn't good
what
enough.
was that, Rob? Let's go back.
Sure.
Because what was that like getting the call? Because that's like the dream job.
Oh,
like,
it's the dream, and the team
like?
that I wanted, and I didn't have to leave. No, it was, it's the greatest, probably the greatest outside of family in terms of your kids being born and those sort of things. It was professionally the greatest day I've ever had, because I was not expecting it. Came right out of the blue. It came at a bit of a cost because I replaced Peter Labardius, who's a dear friend of mine, and we had to work through that, and rightfully so. Pete really loved the gig too, right? So it was, I was flying high.
Tell us about tell us about the Columbus Blue Jackets cannon, because tell us about the cannon.
Yeah. So, so you go to Columbus and they have a cannon on the concourse, and every time the Blue Jackets come out and every time they score, they fire off the cannon. Well, the noise for the cannon is actually up by the visitors' press box. So it is extraordinarily loud. And I'm not a big fan of loud noises to begin with. I'm a bit sheepish, or, what we used to say in the 80s, a fraidy cat. And, I knew it was coming. Like, I just knew it was coming, but I couldn't turn around. And I couldn't see it. I couldn't control the situation. And then the gun went off, which I would repeat. And I lost my, are you allowed to swear on this?
Yeah.
I lost my shit.
You get three per
perfect.
No.
And I knew I did. I knew I did, and I knew it was going to, run, and I knew who the morning show guys were, and I knew they were going to jump on it. So I just kind of leaned into it and said the gun went off, and tried to have some fun with it. It's one of those things, like, to this day, random people come up to you and just jump in your face and go, "The gun went off." Yeah, the gun went off. I had probably one of the most unusual experiences was when I went back to radio. I was doing a remote show, and some guy brought his kid in and literally sat there and made fun of me. That's the guy that said the gun went off in Columbus. He and all that stuff, which was, hey, listen, if it's bonding for you and your kid, I'm all for it. It was just a little odd.
You had many viral moments, Rob, just many viral moments.
I did. Thank you, Jamin. That's an oldie, but I wish I came up with that one. I stole that one. That one I heard in the Western Hockey League and lifted at this. He looks like he's trying to start a lawnmower. So
I love it. Though, it's funny because now you're sitting around with two former pro athletes that have been handed walking papers. Some opportunities worked out, some haven't. At the end, I just wasn't good enough. Well, you know what? I was still good enough when the Stampeders cut me. Chevy, I'm sure you're good enough when the Cowboys cut you. Let's just stick with that. Like, we were good enough at the time.
But I think the proof was in the pudding. But you know what, though? But that's part of it, Sheldon, is what are you going to do? Like, you have a decision to make. To me, in that situation, you have a decision to make. One, you can walk around and be bitter for the rest of your life. And I've seen that movie too many times and been with people like that too many. Like it to me, it's still, I told you that it's, getting that job was the greatest, gift I've ever been given outside of my kids. Losing that job was the worst thing that ever happened to me. I knew it was coming because they were so freaking sloppy. They did their firings the same way every time in the same place every time. So when I got called to the hotel, I knew what was happening. And I purposefully walked from the Dome downtown and walked back. And I can tell you every single step of that way. I failed and I knew I failed. But at the end of the day, 10 years later, my God, they replaced me with Rick Ball. I mean, he's now in Chicago calling Connor Bedard games. Like I didn't get, this isn't like you guys and watching Michael Federic get a job, or his kid get a job or whatever. That wasn't the case. Yeah. They got the right guy. They got the right guy.
But Rob, you mentioned you get better, and I'm sure there was you had to deal with that. We all have to deal with that. When I got the tap on the shoulder that I wasn't going to be playing defensive line anymore, that took its toll on me. I know when Sheldon got that call, it took its you have that time.
My head coach got fired that same year, so I walked away with my chin up a little bit because they didn't replace me with Rick Ball.
Yeah. So where does the transition go from, hey, I'm bitter, but I got to make a choice? Mm-hmm. And what was that? Was that choice where you are now away from the industry? Like you kind of slowly went away.
That's pretty astute for you, actually. Are we keeping track of this, Trey, at home? Because you got one, Randy. That was absolutely accurate. When it happens, it was kind of crazy because when it happens, Peter Maher's also retiring. So the radio job comes available. So, okay, I'll just, I was at the radio station. They liked me at the radio station. I'll throw my name in. I wasn't ever considered for that. They gave me a token interview, but they never considered me for it. And, when they fire you, they go, in most cases they go, well, here's your walking papers. Here's your severance. Goodbye. In my case, they said, here's, you're not, this isn't working. So we're going to replace you, but there's an opportunity for you to go back to where you were. And I don't know if it was misguided loyalty. I don't know if it was misguided, because I'd never gone through the process before if I felt like I had to, but I should have never gone back to radio. Mm-hmm. I was fired in 2014 from Sportsnet. I should have left. I should have. Next 4 years were just, we did some fun things and I'm proud of some of the things we did. And, got the East-West Hot Stove back with Dehacek and Morganti. Loved that. Introduced Chris Johnson to a whole, nation. We were one of the first to put him on. We did some cool things, but no, I mean, when I retired, and I call it that, when I retired in 2018, that was 4 years too late. I should have walked away because I was bitter. For a while there, I was bitter, and I was, it was never why me, but it was like, I kept feeling like, well, anything that came open, I had to bid on because, that role defined me. That's the role that's who I was. Yeah. That wasn't who I was.
But there's also a level of pride, right? You put so much time in and you know what your resume is and you know how good you are. Again, I felt it. I keep saying Sheldon felt it. Like at some point you're like, oh, I am better than that guy. And I'm better than that. And then you got to.
So let's break that. But let's deal with that. And I don't say this out of any, this woe for me or anything like that. And I think it's only through the lens of being 54 and kind of restarting my life a couple of times. Quite honestly, I think when the book is written on my radio career, I was the just about good enough guy. I never got my Toronto shot, but I was always prepared to go to Toronto. So to me, when I grew up in the business, everything funneled to Toronto. If you're, you get to, I started in a small market in Estevan, go to a bigger market, then you go to a city, and then you all go to Toronto. That was just how it was ingrained in me. So every year, as much as I hate the Blue Jays at the time or whatever, the Maple Leafs, all that stuff, I made sure I knew Toronto sports backwards and forwards, because at some point I'm going to get my call, and at some point they're going to have me fly in and audition or whatever. That never happened, right? You guys saw how it worked on the inside. The afternoon show is not the morning show. The morning show is where the money is. The morning show is where the bread and butter is. Good afternoons are that. And I'm proud to have been a very good afternoon guy, but I wasn't good enough to get elevated. And at the time, that's part of what frustrated me too, is why am I back here? I've done this, right? Where am I going? If this is what I'm going to do, and once you start down that path, it just didn't feel right anymore. And, I'm very proud of what I've accomplished, but I also know who and what I am. And I was not the next big morning show. I wasn't the next big thing. I just never was. And that's okay now. That's okay now. Right.
But I mean, it can't, I assume you're aware of, the hundreds of thousands of people, loyal fan listeners that followed your career, that your voice was missed. People loved you. There's a connection. I know
sure.
That might not get you the professional.
No. And that means a lot to me, Sheldon. That means a lot. And that's what I hang my hat on. Right. Bob McCowan is, to me, when you think about sports talk radio in this country, Bob McCowan, Bobcat is he's the gold standard, right? He's the guy they built a station around. He's the guy that in his prime, they're the ones that opened up the checks to and everything like that. He's the one that had an agent. My God, randomly one day, the Rocket says to me, if you get an agent, we'll fire you. I'm like, where the hell did this come from? Right. And, it was that. I don't want to downplay anything. I'm very proud of it, Sheldon. And I do appreciate it when, I haven't done it in almost 7 years now. And I probably get more recognized now than I ever did while I was in it, which is really bizarre to me and very humbling.
Because everybody wanted to just fight with your takes back in the day, right?
Yeah.
What's that?
Everybody just wanted to fight with you on your takes back in the day.
No, and that I was kind of in the grasp of that changing society thing, right? Like just towards, the end of my career is when social media really started to take off. The hot takes, started to take off. What did me in was the gambling. Because I was brought in and said, hey, we need you to be our fantasy football expert. And I kind of looked at them and I said, do you mean you want me to bring on somebody to talk about fantasy football? No, we want people to tune in and listen to Rob Kerr, figure out who they should sit and add and drop and pick up on the waiver wire.
Wow.
And I wanted to ask you about that.
You know who you're talking to? Because I am famous I have zero interest in any of that. I have no interest in gambling.
And that's what we've always loved about you, because we got the insight to that industry through you, through obviously your mentorship towards us, the friendship that we've developed over time. I know you outside of this. You're one of the people that I would say is an awesome guy, stand-up guy, a nice guy. You stand for principles, right? Did the world of paid amateur and professional sport just become too businesslike and too not corrupt, but too like basically pull away from the purity of sport? Because you're a sport purist. You love that.
I am. I am. Look, I would describe it to you this way. I just don't like the business now at all. I don't listen to sports talk radio. I don't watch much sports. I'm sorry. But that's okay. Like, I'm not angry. I don't walk around going, you shouldn't watch this or you shouldn't listen to that. I understand now the things that my dad was saying to me when I was bringing up pop culture things to him and, reference to movies and music and things like that. I understand that better now. It's not for me. The advertisers don't care what I think. The advertisers care what the younger generations think. And I get that. And I'm sure we'll get to this. I struggle with the fact that I do not believe there's a moral authority in sport right now. I just, I don't know if you guys saw it today, but Bev Priestman's not going back to the Olympic or to the women's soccer team because of the drone scandal. And, I look at that whole thing in Paris and I look at the reaction and how many Olympians, how many pro athletes, how many commentators all said, yeah, but everybody does it, right? Yeah, it's cheating, but everybody does. If you're not cheating, you're not trying. And I'm sorry, that's crap. Like, kids, you are a role model. Kids look up to you, should look up to you, at least have the potential of looking up to you. But to be caught doing this was, to me, was in many ways so un-Canadian. But again, we're talking about Ben Johnson, and, you know, we've had all of these scandals, and, you know, at least we had the Dublin inquiry with Johnson. This one, you know, Soccer Canada it gives you a redacted report. That's it. That's all. You know, we're taking care of it. It's nasty. We don't like it, but we're not telling you about it. And so, you know, the last incarnation that I had of, you know, when I briefly came back, I guess last year, and, you know, I said right away, you know, sorry guys, I'm not interested in sports gambling money. Just because I don't believe in it, right? And I think it's trouble, and it's going to lead us to trouble.
It can only go one direction. It can only do one thing, and
but it's propping up everything right now, Sheldon. Like, I get it from a sports business standpoint. When static advertising was drying up, when sponsors were drying up, when, you know, just there was not money to be spent, inroad sports gambling in North America, and it saved the day. You know, you touched on it. I used to work for the Calgary Hitmen in the Western Hockey League, and was privy to conversations about, you know, sports gambling sponsorship, and that just never, you know, it just never sat right with me. And I don't think there's anything wrong with what they're doing or anything like that. But, you know, at the end of the day, you know, what do you have if not your values, right?
Yeah.
So,
and Rob, okay, go ahead, Sheldon.
well, I was just going to say, I'm kind of changing gears here a little bit. So that was, you know, so the sports platform world's changing.
Sure.
You're asking yourself, okay, what am I going to do now? And how old were you at that point, Rob?
Which go round?
2014, 2015.
So I'm you know, I'm 44 at that point.
Yeah. And that's when you start stepping out of a career, which football players have to do quite often. Chevy played, I think it was 44.
Still plays, I believe.
He may. What was that period like? Because the one thing, if you've done something for that long, and to reinvent yourself is not easy, right?
Yeah, and yeah. So, like I said, Sheldon, I think hindsight being 2020, I should not have gone back to radio. So I went back to the employer that just fired me, which that's fine. You know, I was around the team that I was no longer doing my dream job with, which, you know, that was fine. But I don't think it was fair. Quite honestly, I don't think it was fair to the staff that I was working with. I don't think they got me the way they should have gotten me. Not that I was a prick or anything like that. I mean, you talk to some of those kids, and I'm sure they'll tell you I was a prick, but there's other ones that said, no, he helped out and stuff like that. But I just knew where we were headed. You could see where things were going. They were not investing in radio. Radio was not a growth market. It is not a growth market. And there wasn't a lot of money to be had. Again, good people, lots of opportunities and stuff like that. But knowing what I know now, I wish I had started this journey that I'm on now a little earlier. Now, having said that, I also believe I needed to go through that. It was humbling. It was all of those sort of things. But, you know, if I'm going to stand in front of, you know, U13 hockey players or U15 hockey players and sit there and tell them about the power of failure, you know, I kind of have to embrace it a little bit myself. And so I do. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. I shouldn't have gone back. That's okay.
Well,
you know,
but there's that period of discovery. We talk about transition. You know, the impetus for Sheldon and I bringing the ride with Chevy and Nasty back is not because we wanted to bring back the show we had 20 years ago when we were young dung punks thinking we could do everything. But we talk about this. We mentioned when we first brought it back is, you know, you pass that age of invincibility, whether it's in your career, in your life, where you think, yeah, I could do everything. I could do it. And then all of a sudden life hits you. You lose your job, health issues. And then you have to rediscover who you are. And I want to kind of move this along. You know, there's so much good stuff here.
But I'm dragging my heels again.
No.
We're
I'm making it about myself.
We're so fascinated those periods.
Yeah. I want to get to the good stuff. And because we know, like, you had to pass through this threshold of, can I let go of the identity of what I was? Not just because the sports world is changing, but I need to change, and I need to find something that
Sure.
fuels my fire. I need something,
Sure.
Sheldon went from football to real estate to drones. I went from photography. I went from football to firefighting, and then from firefighting back into an education role within the fire department.
Yep.
Like, you got to find what fuels you.
Sure.
You and I have crossed paths many times in the last few years, and it wasn't because of sports or the pro sports. It was because of your involvement in the community, whether it be the Hockey Heroes program, Hockey Calgary Leadership Days. It appears that you have found your fire. Tell us about where Rob Kerr is going right now. You got some great programs. I want to make sure we pay proper homage to what you're doing now and where it's come from.
Yeah. So, really from early on, when I got into the business, I had great mentors. I had John Short up in Edmonton, legendary Hall of Fame broadcaster, Peter Marr, Mike Rogers in Calgary, Eric Tahachuk, who I mentioned, Georgie Johnson. I was around some Eric Francis. I've been around some really good people, but, the common denominator was, this community gives you so much as you're part of the sport fabric that you have to give back. And to me, I was, honored to give back. So, it started a long time ago, and it, over time it went from volunteering to organizing to, I was the chair of the Henry Burris All-Star Weekend for 2 years, I believe. So that was kind of the first time, I was on that board, and, with Big Brothers and Big Sisters. And then we started my hockey camp, our hockey camp, I should say, not mine, but the one in 2012 for kids, who never got a chance to go to hockey schools and weren't playing elite hockey. And really, you guys were around it. It was more about leadership, teamwork, respect, fun, and belonging, really. So those are the things that have always stuck with me. So eventually, over time, when you got Rob Kerr, you got all of the community stuff that went with it. Because to me, I'm just as passionate about that as my jobs. And that was cool. I think, again, 960 was great. And, even Sportsnet television, CSEC was really, when I was there for 4 years, they were great. But to me, it's, having been in a business that was all about opinions and constant, let's be perfectly honest, complaining and whining and bitching and moaning. And it got to me that, we did all of this, but why aren't we doing anything? Like, we're just going to spend all our day. And I use the example, all the time about refereeing in the playoffs. If I read one more column about, somebody feigning surprise that the refereeing changes in the postseason in any sport, I'm going to lose my mind, because it's the same column written every year. You get through the first round of the playoffs and it's the greatest. This is the best. The playoffs aren't better. They're the best. The playoffs are the best in the first round. The first round's the best. And then by the end of the second round, refereeing in this league's terrible. You insert league. I don't care. But nobody wants to do anything about it. Nobody ever says, you know what, we've got to put our foot down. So to me, my differentiation, my difference maker was going to be that, I saw the need for, helping kids understand the importance of sport in teaching them about life through leadership, through teamwork, through, showing respect and all those sort of. I still believe that sport is the ultimate teacher of that. That I think, to me, here's a simple litmus test. We are a society, a world right now run by managers, very few leaders. Take any politician you want. I don't care your party affiliation. I don't care anything. Just take any politician you want and make them the captain of your team. Are you going to follow him? Are you going to listen to him? Would that ever happen? Are those the people that you want? And to me, they fail that test every time. So it's really important that we're teaching kids how to be leaders. And that's different than being a manager. We're really important to teach kids how to be part of a team and to work as a team. I think we saw in the pandemic this shift from greater good to self-interest. And again, I'm a little bit on my soapbox, and I apologize.
It's all right. Well, that's what this is about.
But to me, I think it's palatable now that we have a society that, starts with me first and then everybody else afterwards. And then, respect, the other one that I've added is belonging. A good friend of mine, I went along with diversity, equity, inclusion. I believe all of those things, but a good friend of mine corrected me one day and said, ultimately this, DEI has become this, woke argument and this side versus that side. It's just about belonging. Everybody wants to belong. Everybody wants to feel like they belong. Everybody wants to be comfortable and belong. Team sports can provide that if we're working that. So I've really been working on that. And, when I left CSEC in 2022, I decided, opportunities came my way to become an independent contractor and to do some consulting. And I jumped in with it with both feet. And I've worked on some amazing projects, Parachutes for Pets and building the world's first pet advocacy center. I still work with First Nations Health Consortium, and we're bringing, all kinds of programming to remote First Nations communities that never have access to it. But the real passion for me is what I'm doing now, and with two projects. One is the 10-20-30 project, which is my. And Randy, respectfully, you're part of Dare to Care. I've been an ambassador for Dare to Care. Sheldon Kennedy and Wayne McNeil did this amazing job with respect in sport. Andrew Ladd's got 1616 project, mental health. Brent Dodging Horse has done some amazing stuff. And I'm entering that kind of very full field by bringing a program to youth, U18 to U11, that really is 5 modules that, talks about competing, respect, teamwork, leadership, and fun. Then talks about communication, belonging, what it means to be an ally, and how to talk to officials. And then take a left turn and bring in a charity and have those kids learn what it means to become an ambassador. How can you be an ambassador for that program? What questions do you need to be able to answer to help them spread their message? Then find out what they're in need of. And the best part of the 5 modules is module number 4, when we turn all the chairs into the center and say, okay, guys, figure it out. What are you going to do to help them? And you watch these 15-year-old girls, 16, 17-year-old boys come up with ideas and cool ways that they can help a charity. And then you let them execute that. And in some cases, we had a dog toy toss at a hockey game. We had a golf tournament, and the players all wash the clubs for $20 to go to so it's amazing to empower kids to give back to their community. And then the 5th module is we literally say, okay, you're a 14-year-old kid now. When you're 24, how are you going to help your sport? How are you going to help your community? And just watching a young person have to establish for a minute that they are eventually going to be 10 years older, and what will that look like, is incredible. Then you ask them to do 34 and then 44 with the progression of, hey, in your sport, you could be a coach. In your community, you could volunteer. A little older, you might be a coordinator or sit on a board, and just be intentional about the things you're learning in sport you'll carry with you for the rest of your life. And how can you make your community better? I love kids now. I believe in kids now. The kids now are better than us. They are better than us.
You know what I love about what you're doing here, Rob? It's sort of cut you off, because I love that. Like somebody said, stand on that soapbox, preach. What you brought up a couple of terms like woke or things that are divisive. To me, woke and the other one, virtual signal, are keyboard warriors, much like people with opinions in the sports business before. I'll say this. It makes me look good. I'll say this because it makes them look bad. But what you're talking about is, what's the solution and what do I do? You're talking about volunteerism. How do I get involved with my community? Not sit there and say what people did wrong or what people did right, but how do I get involved and help? And I absolutely love that, Rob.
Yeah, well, thanks, Sheldon, and I do too. We've proven it. We've done the pilot project on it last year, and the kids are great. The teams all want to do it. It's just the time commitment thing, and we've got it now down to, we can do the program, the 4 modules in the program in the time it would take you to play a game. And then you go out, do the event, come back, and we have a 40-minute meeting. That's how long it takes. But, you know, it's getting that buy-in. It's getting that, you know, what we like to think is that our program allows your organization, your sport to walk your values, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk about what our values are, right? What do we believe in? And, you know, here's an opportunity to give youth that exposure and give them that opportunity. So we're building that out, and kind of, you know, on the side of all of this, I fell down an incredibly deep rabbit hole last year about this time, thanks to the Flames alumni. And I discovered this world of professional Santa Claus.
I was
And
going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask
well,
you-
no,
So-
but they're connected, right?
But
Like,
but
they're
I was going to say, so just if I
Yeah.
can bring you in,
Yeah.
first of all,
Yeah.
Rob, the words you're saying, I'm looking at the comments. You're really inspiring a lot of our regular listeners. There's people that are actually very interested after
Yeah.
hearing you speak. And I was going to ask you, I spoke with you about your project last year.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it was, the timing for me was,
Yeah.
I couldn't fit it in, but we always nurture each other's interests.
Oh
and
yeah,
stuff.
no, because we're on the same wavelength, right?
And then last week, I read a LinkedIn article.
Yeah.
It's how
Yeah.
a banana, a drone, and I believe it's Santa Claus are connected.
St.
I'm like,
Nicholas. Yeah.
St. Nicholas. I'm like, I read this article. I'm like, we got to have Rob Kerr to come on in the show and tell us about how a
Yeah.
drone, a banana, and St. Nicholas are connected to what you're doing.
Yeah. So I went down this deep rabbit hole. The Flames alumni, I'm fortunate enough to be included in the Flames alumni and help them out. And every year they do an incredible toy drive. And then last year they asked me to be Santa Claus. I've been Santa Claus before. I mean, it wasn't the first time. And as a matter of fact, I had my own wig and beard and a designer beard. And so I was jacked. I was going to go to Woods Homes and I was going to be Santa for the Flames alumni. This was going to be awesome. Anyway, I pulled out the hair and the beard, and it was just a rat's nest. Like, it was gross. Like, what was I going to do? Like, I spent $70 on this wig and this beard, and then so anyway, my mom and I were looking at it. I thought my mom could fix it, and so she couldn't. I said, well, let's go on the internet and let's Google, how do we fix a fake beard and hair? And my mom says, well, that's the stupidest thing. You'll never find anything. Wow. There's thousands of videos on how to do that. And the first video we saw was from the manufacturer of the set we had. So within 5 minutes, we'd solved the problem. So I'm thinking about, I'm going, well, if I'm going to Woods Homes, I wonder if there's a video on how I should talk to teenagers as Santa Claus. Wow. 9.5 hours later, I come from my room and I have just found this whole world of professional Santa Claus. So I made a commitment to myself, and I said, if I'm going to do 3 or 4 of these, and if I like it, then I think I want to pursue this. And I loved it. And I became a member of the Worldwide Santa Claus Network, and I took the course, and I'm, by their standards, I'm a certified professional Santa. But
you're a real Santa.
I'm a real Santa. And so now, so, and I said before, as a designer, so I'm not what they call a real bearded Santa now. So, so I'll wear this as opposed to a fake beard now. But anyway, to get to your point, Randy, part of the exercise was doing the values, the mission, and all of that of what my Santa was. And as I was doing the backstory, how many elves I have, the whole thing. And as I'm doing the values, I'm like, wait a minute, this sounds familiar. And it was remarkably close to the 10-20-30 project. And then the light bulb went on. As I said before, we were delivering for U11 to U18. Tried a U7 team with a smaller version of it, kind of worked. But then it dawned on me that the delivery platform for all of this was to use Santa as the tool, as the device. So that's when Coach Santa came about. And Coach Santa is a mission of kindness. So the whole Coach Santa, which we're running as a pilot project right now with U7 and U9 teams in Calgary. And there's approximately 200 of them in Hockey Calgary. And we're going to try and visit them between November 1st and the 24th of December. And we're off to a great start. But we use 3 pillars. We do a weekly video. So every week we have a 8 to 15 minute video of me, and I've got the elves, and we, it's aimed at 5-year-old, 6-year-old kids. So you'd love it, Randy. But anyway, we put out a new, first week was teamwork. Last week was how to be safe and responsible. Make sure you're bringing all your equipment. You got kids, you know what it's like. You got to the rink, they got no helmet. What are you going to do? Right. And then next week's about community. You're part of a community by being on a hockey team. You're part of a community being at your school. So really what we're doing is we're underlying the soft introduction to sportsmanship, teamwork, respect, sportsmanship. And we're doing it in a fun way. So far we've visited about 400 kids in Calgary. I think it's almost 20 teams now. We go in, we have a fun little chat with them and see if they watch the videos. And then we have the other pillar to this is the Caught You Being Nice trading cards. So each week we have a new trading card out for the kids, with one of the elves or the reindeer that we've created. And they get the card and we have a little interaction. To me, this is all going to work based on the experiences. Every kid, if I can sit and talk for 30 or 45 seconds with every kid, give them that moment, give them that time, ask them if they're going to join me on the mission of kindness and spread kindness, ask them if they're going to make sure that they pack up all their equipment before they come to the rink so nobody has to go home, and then ask them if they'll go home tonight and do something at home without being asked, because that's being a good teammate too. You can be a good teammate in school. You can be a good teammate at home. You can be a good teammate on the ice. We're getting the unexpected part of all of this has been, we said, well, we'd like U15 teams to join us and be elves and hand out cards and be mentors and wear their jerseys and be role models. And we had the U15 Royals white team join us the first weekend, and it was spectacular. But week one, we heard from every single level of hockey in Hockey Calgary. All wanted to be part of it. And we had U11 teams that wanted visits. We had U18 teams that wanted to pair up with us and do toy drives. So all it's done is told me that we're going down the right path. Now,
100%. I'm a dad, and when we bring our the Mavericks football program together from Adams to the older kids, and you just see the way that they interact and look up to each other.
That's right.
I love this. I absolutely love this. Not only is this good for Calgary, I think you're really onto a model that I think we can bring some of that good back into sport.
Yeah.
Anywhere the game's played.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about Coach Santa, and I kind of feel like I have to have this conversation because it comes up, but what if you don't believe in guys? I've met with 400 kids so far. 2 have asked me or told me what they wanted for Christmas. 1 has asked me about what my favorite cookie is for the 24th. And 1 asked me about the reindeer. That's it.
Yeah.
There's no mention of Christmas in the videos. There's no mention of presents. There's no Coach Santa's agnostic.
Yeah.
To me, Coach Santa's love. Coach Santa is kindness. And we have had kids of all faiths come and be part of it, but we don't push it on anybody. You've got to want to be part of it. We've invited teams to book us and they have. And we had a team that said, hey, listen, culturally, it might not work for our team. And we said, no problem. Please understand, we're not pushing this on anybody. And the other thing is Coach Santa's sport agnostic. There's no reason this won't work in soccer. There's no reason this won't work in basketball. There's no reason there can't be one in Halifax. There's no reason one can't be in Edmonton. Guys, I hate to be this, and we're hopefully no believers are watching right now that it's all just the parents. But we do suspend disbelief when we take our kids from Chinook Mall to South Center Mall in the middle of December in the same day. They see the guy, right? So to me, there's a lot of power in this, and this is the pilot. And there is a role, and I'm very, very upfront about this. The same speech every time. I tell them the elves, the reindeer, we all love hockey. We all play hockey. But do you know who the best player at the North Pole is? Mrs. Claude.
There you go.
There has to be gender equity.
Yeah.
There has to be the ability for the kids to see themselves. It has to have belonging to it. So as we build the program out, I have 3 years built. So I know what I'm pushing next year, and what I will be pushing next year will be the integration of the parents and allowing them to earn the cards for their kids, but a subtle, soft reminder to, well, what does respect really mean in the arena? What does it really mean to be a good sport? The parents need that reminder every once in a while.
So
then there will be a second character added too, and I think I've already given away who it's going to be.
yeah. Played by the role played by Cassie Campbell, or
listen, I can't speak on that, and I don't want the internet blowing up, but
yeah,
wouldn't that be cool?
But
To me, guys, that's the power of all this. So we're tracking as much data as we're going to survey teams. We're going to do as much as we can so that when we come out of this, and Hockey Calgary's been brilliant. Kevin Kabelka, Jamie Henry have been brilliant. You mentioned it before. I mean, we've done Hockey Inspires leadership days and stuff like that. So there's a bit of trust there, but I'll tell you that the just the positive vibes when you're in a rink and grandma and grandpa are there and they're watching their granddaughter talk to you and just hang on every word and then take a picture. Sure. It's an experience, right?
Yeah.
And sports needs to be positive. And, Randy, you asked me and I mentioned it, the drone was Bev Priestman and the women's, who's standing up for this? St. Nicholas, that's me. The banana is the Savannah Bananas, Jesse Cole. And they are, between them, the Kings League and Gerard Piqué in Spain, Gritty and the Philadelphia Flyers, and Dude Perfect. Those are 4 examples of positive disruption in sport, where they've literally taken the rules and thrown them out and said, we're doing this because of the fans. We're doing this to make the experience better. We are not going to adhere to tribalism. We're not going to adhere to institutionalism. We're going to take something and turn it on its head. And the fact that you have this, and I pray at the altar of Jesse Cole every morning. To me, he's the new Walt Disney's the new P.T. Barnum. But here's a guy that 5 years ago had a team in a wood bat college summer league playing 42 games. And he's going to take his team on a tour in 2025. And 3 of the venues they're playing in are NFL stadiums. The rest are MLB stadiums. The fact that he just did a cruise, like he took everything and he kept saying, why not? Why not? And he made it all about fans and made it fan first. Gerard Piqué in the Kings League. If you don't know what the Kings League is, it's brilliant. But to me, this was getting back and saying, this is all about the kids. This is about going to the rink should be fun. There should be fun experiences for kids and they can learn something, but it has to be fun.
And I'll suggest back to an earlier point, these are leaders, not managers of programs.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
I love it.
Correct.
Rob, so this is amazing. Unfortunately, we can't ask you every follow-up question because I got a million of them.
Yeah, I get it.
But where can people go to find out more information on this?
Well, so there's a couple different spots. RobKerr.ca is the self-serving one. Instagram, LinkedIn, you can find me there. 102030project.com. If you go to Hockey Calgary, they host the website for Coach Santa. It's there as part of the programming, and the videos are there and all of that. I'll let you guys know I'm going to be one of the guys jumping off Twitter here anyway. It's just not a platform I want to be associated with anymore. So I think that one's going down, but the Instagram, the website, LinkedIn is probably, well, that's, Randy, that's where you saw it. But, if somebody wants more information, I've got the world's most egotistical email. It's just off the charts egotistical. So it'll be a earworm for everybody. Me at robkerr.ca.
Oh,
I mean, honest to God, who's got a bigger ego than me? Right? It's me.
Easy.
I thought you were going to say Rob Kerr at robkerr.com.
Yeah, no. It's me. Like you're emailing me.
Well, Rob, listen, we're not going to let you go just yet because, we love the story. We love the ride you took us on tonight. That's why we call this a ride. You've taken us from the beginning, the middle, the transformation, the sleigh ride where we're at. You talked about something just recently.
Oh, by the way, I do house visits, corporate events too. I've got Santa Rob is my side hustle too. So
yes, and I saw that as well.
Sure we pump that out too because I would love to get behind you on that too. Because
I've done
a lot of work with in that industry. I love it.
Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah.
So Rob, it's Grey Cup weekend.
Yeah.
Okay. The Grey Cup's going to be played, and after the season, the CFL is going to go to business. They're going to go to business with a new commissioner. They haven't picked that commissioner yet. If Rob Kerr gets picked, earmarked to be the commissioner of the CFL, having said what you just said about Jesse Cole and the things that sports leagues need to do to re-engage the fans, what is Rob Kerr's first order of business if you're the commissioner of the CFL?
Frictionless pricing. Frictionless pricing. I think it should be mandatory across the league that your taxes, your fees, everything is built in. Your drinks, your first drink, your sandwich, whatever, your parking and all that. And it should be affordable for families. You know, I would be looking at ways, you know, I've heard Jesse Cole speak before and you know, his description of frictionless pricing is how many clicks does it take for you to buy a ticket? On average, if you're going to buy a ticket online, it takes you 9 clicks. It's a lot of clicks, boys. It's a lot of clicks. And I think, you know, anything we can do to reduce the barrier for a fan right now. We were just talking about it over the weekend. You know, when I grew up, we were all CFL fans. There was a badge of honor about mom and dad pulling on the fur coats and us putting on the onesie snowmobile suits and going and sitting in October with 6 inches of snow on our head watching a CFL game. We loved it. Guess what? Nobody loves that anymore. Doesn't work. And you know, the other thing I would have, I don't think you can mandate it, but my rule is I'm not interested in what the old guard thinks. I'm just not. You know, Randy, you and I have had this conversation. I think Sheldon, you and I had this conversation. 2 years ago, The Rock buys the XFL. And then it comes out he's talking to the CFL. And the old guard lost their shit. Oh, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Yep.
You know, so to me, frictionless pricing and the old guard can beat it. I will say this in all seriousness. I sure hope that the CFL, and I don't think they will, I think they're too beholden to the ways they've done things. But I would really like to see the next commissioner be an entertainment guy, be a ticketing guy, be somebody who's not necessarily a former player or lawyer or anything. Not there's anything wrong with former bank managers and stuff like that. But this league is in trouble, boys. I have no problem saying it, and I hate to say it, but it's in trouble. And unless there's some radical thinking that allows the greater population to come back to it, it's going to be the diehards that are going to own it and going to die with it. And I have nothing against, you know, longtime season ticket holders. I embrace them, but I don't want them to lose their team either. And, and I just think that it's kind of that antiquated thinking. You know, I'll tell you right now, your former teammate, I think the MVP in Calgary sports this year is Jay McNeil.
Yep.
I love Jay. I think nobody's worked harder. You know, he got the Grey Cup. I've heard a little bit about what that's going to look like, and I'm excited. You know, we need more Jay McNeils. Yeah. I'll say that.
Yeah, and he's a friend of the show. He's a great guy. He went to our men's night. We're going to have him on the show at some point when he needs to give a little bit more push so we can get more tickets and more butts and seats. But Rob, you've been fantastic tonight. Thank you so much. Before we let you go, we have to have a little fun. This is the ride.
Okay.
And we got 6 questions for you. Okay?
Fun, you say? I don't remember to have fun, Randy, but we'll try.
So you're going on your ultimate road trip. I'll start it off, Sheldon. You're going to take a road trip tomorrow. You decide, you get up in the morning, you say, you know, Rob Kerr needs to get somewhere. Where are you going?
Flin Flon, Manitoba, to see the Whitney Forum.
Nice.
Okay.
To see what? Sorry, I interrupt you.
No, it's all good. So the Whitney Forum is, you know, Flin Flon, Manitoba. It's the hub. It's the hockey building. It's where the Bombers play. And I had one of my greatest junior hockey experiences in one of the wildest brawls that I ever saw in my life. But there's so much history in that building. It's in the Canadian, you know, Flin Flon's on the Canadian Shield. There's, you know, sewer pipes running above the ground because you can't dig in the ground, that sort of thing. But I just, you know, of all the buildings, of all the places, and that's the one that has always stuck out in my mind. So, you know, to me, I'm jumping in my car and driving up to Flin Flon to see the Whitney Forum.
I think he's in Saskatchewan and had to go to bed already, but one of our listeners is a former Flin Flon bomber.
Oh, is he?
Oh,
very
all
cool.
The stories about that place.
Very cool. Yeah.
So you're making the road trip. Who would you take with you?
Great. I've alienated North Battleford. My apologies. Or Battleford. See, I've alienated Battleford because it's Battleford, not North Battleford. Who am I taking with me now? Do I have to know them? Is that what this is, or
no? Who would you take?
Who are you going to take for dinner? You know,
who would you take? Who would you take with you? Who do you want to go with?
It's a long drive up to Flin Flon.
Okay, Jesse, go.
I want in that guy's mind. I want to pick that brain because it's, my LinkedIn page is just a fan page for him, really.
Okay.
Nobody makes me think. Nobody challenges me more than that guy right now.
Okay. What are you driving? What's your ride?
F-150. I mean,
yes.
I'm not a car guy. I've never been a car guy. My dad was a huge car guy, but that apple did not fall off the tree.
What would Dad drive if he was driving on that road trip?
In 98, when he passed away, the last car he owned was a Firebird.
Yeah, it was a sweet ride.
Yeah, it was. Dad's car was. He had the only thing that really kind of ever intrigued me about the cars was my dad had a Datsun 280 ZX.
Oh,
and not the 2+2. He had the 2-seater, and that always felt like a special. That felt like a dad car to me, and I'm sure it was some sort of midlife crisis. Now looking back at it, but that was special.
The important one to Chev and I, what are you eating? Do you have a place you stop at or something you have to eat on that road trip on your way up there?
I kind of saw the stuff going on about the chicken places, but I don't anymore.
You're not a beef jerky guy in the car or a bag of chips.
I had so much beef, Big Chief beef jerky. I mean, I'm never going to die. I've got so many not chemicals, but
preservatives.
Preservatives. Thank you. Preservatives inside me from eating all that jerky. I'll tell you, I'll do it this way. I'm going to stop at Empire Provisions over on Elbow, and I'm going to get the Cubano sandwich. I'm going to get 3 of them. And that will be what I will eat between here and Flin Flon.
I'm getting one next week.
And last thing, Rob, what are you listening to? What's playing on? What tunes are playing on the radio?
Tom Cochrane, Red Rider. Always Red Rider. That's the one. As Jesse Cole speaks to me from a sports business standpoint, Tom Cochrane's always spoke to me as a songwriter, singer. Red Rider into Tom Cochrane, Red Rider. The solo stuff's okay, but I think you go back to Don't Fight It and Nerudia and as far as Siam, and then the self-titled Tom Cochrane and Red Rider. No music has ever impacted me, touched me, to the same degree. I get the little Spotify thingy for Christmas, and you're 0.0001% of Tom Cochrane's listened to's this year and stuff like that. It's unhealthy, quite honestly. And I interviewed him in 2006. Kelly Kirsch, he was doing a solo album, and he was doing Jack FM, and Kelly Kirsch arranged it, and I did a 1-hour sit down with Tom Cochrane. And awesome. and it's funny, we were talking about the listeners and the callers and everything like that, and I record. It was a 1-hour interview, so we played it on a Friday at 4:00, and I came in on Monday. I thought this was a sports talk show, and then I tuned in, and you were talking music with some CanCon guy. That was left on my voicemail. I'll never forget that. He didn't like it. I loved every second of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Rob, once again, thanks so much for joining us. It's been great connecting with you and hearing a little bit about your journey and about your ride, because a lot of people are still thinking about you, and I know there's a lot of people excited to put some comments and questions out there and just hear what you're doing. So
that was nice. I appreciate everybody and the comments there and the good nature of it. I will always say that Overtime, which was the post call-in show for Flames, for a couple years, it got a little weird towards the end of my tenure, but in its prime, man, I love talking to people. And, you talk about accomplishments and everything. And I still go back to, it was game 5 in Detroit, and Calgary won that game. And it was an early morning game, started at 10:00 Calgary time, and it was over by 12:30. And we got into overtime calls at 1 o'clock. And the rule was, as long as there were callers, I would stay on the air. And we were on the air till 11:30 that night. Yeah. And that's a badge of honor that I'll carry. That and Craig Conroy calling after the Vancouver series. And Craig and I are actually hosting a 13th, 14th year in a row. We're hosting an event for the prep program, which works with Downs students. And we're doing that tomorrow night. So Craig and I remain close friends. So.
That's awesome, Rob.
Like you guys, close friends like you guys. That's what I meant to say. He's a close friend like you two. That's what I meant to say.
Well, he's the GM of the
Except when Randy texts me. Oh, does he do the same thing?
Yeah, listen, I'd show you my phone right now. They're books. He writes books to people.
Oh my
the form
God,
he got you to fill out.
I voice text.
Are you going to come? Yeah, I'm going to come.
He lives for this.
Oh my God.
Voice text. Listen, Rob, we love having
you got voice text? Oh no.
I voice to text. Like I just hit them a little microphone and I talk.
And then he just talks.
Then I talk. I mean, and the grammar isn't always great, but
and
you know, I'm voice to text.
You to screw off.
Sometimes.
Shocking.
But listen, Rob, I don't want to tell you to screw off, but I'm going to tell you, I love this interview. I know the people listening, you made a lot of fans. I'm sure there's going to be a couple of people reaching out to you for some of your projects. You're so articulate, authentic, as Daryl said. Thanks for being on the show. Thanks for staying up late with us. I know it's a late night past Santa's bedtime.
It is past Santa's bedtime. Yes. Mrs.
But we
Claus
wish
you pissed.
Wish you all the best. Thank you for joining us. Guys, we're going to be back. Let Rob Kerr go to bed. We're going to wrap this thing up somehow.
Like you guys, this is it. Like it's over now?
No, we
got another segment we got to pull off here. But,
I see.
Two segments.
We'll have some glory.
One segment. We'll do it together.
I just want to thank Trey for putting up with you guys.
What a guy.
He's an awesome guy. Like
he is awesome.
You don't deserve Trey.
No,
if I'm being honest, if I'm going to be authentic about this, you guys don't really deserve Trey.
No.
Yeah, no. He's bigger than us. He's the future. Right. He is the future.
Future. Our kids are the future.
Yeah. Well, listen, guys. Rob, thanks for joining us. All of you that are on with us. Remember, we're on all socials at Chevy and Nasty, YYC Business, Performance Freight Management, and We Drone Real Estate Media. Our sponsors. We're going to
We Drone Real Estate Media. Who?
Yeah.
Wow. Like they fly drones for real estate, you say?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
do they have any connection to football? We Drones, you say?
Possibly. Rob, you just want to stay on with us. Listen, if you're still here when we get back, we're going to keep talking.
I'm done with you two now. I'm done.
We'll take
nothing else I can milk out of this.
We'll take a quick break.
When do I get the check, by the way?
Well, it's coming. I'm going to be one of your elves. There you go.
All right. All right.
We'll take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll hit you with a few more Chevy and Nastyisms before we let you go tonight. Thanks, Rob.
Be well, everybody.
Performance Freight Management is a global logistic freight shipping company that will handle the entire shipping process for any package to any country. Whether it be a simple truck shipment from your office to Toronto or your company importing generators from China, PFM Freight handles it all. We have the expertise and technology to handle any shipping requirements. Skip the guesswork and let us take the shipping pain off your plate.
Is he still here? Well, Sheldon's not here. I think he's I think he had to go to the bathroom. Listen, guys, thank you for joining us on the ride. We're Chevy and Nasty. You can find us at Chevy and Nasty, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. We're on Spotify, TikTok, and all those places. We're sponsored each week by Performance Freight Management. We Drone Real Estate Media, YYC Business platform is where you can find our show as well. That was an amazing interview. That was Rob Kerr. Really awesome. It went longer than we thought, but we knew it would because he's so awesome. We don't care. We had a couple of segments planned. We're probably going to do one of those segments just because We're mindful of each other's time. It's past 12.
And yours.
We are actually in overtime right now, just in case Trey wants to pull out. Just want to let you know, we've done an hour and a half show. We are literally in overtime. We're not just calling it overtime. It's overtime. Trey, do we got the overtime? No.
No, that's fine.
There you go. I want to acknowledge one thing. During Rob's talk, he talked about his journey through sports and kind of what soured him from sports. And a comment came in. I'm just going to scroll up as Rob Evans. Speaking of Rob Evans, we talk about sharing authentically. Rob shared authentically about his journey. We often try to share ours, and people do. Rob Evans, when Rob was talking about sports gambling, when Rob Kerr was talking about sports gambling, one of Rob's comments was, I developed a gambling problem with his PTSD. Not a fan of the affiliation with sports. That's, to me, that's what the show is about showing people that, they're not alone. And the things we talk about are relevant to the people, to us, our listeners, because everyone is on some different type of journey. And, you might like sports and enjoy the gambling aspect. You might enjoy betting on it, and that's fine. But there are others that are affected in different ways. And it's really neat to make different connections. And I thought, thank you, Rob Evans, for sharing. And obviously, thanks, Rob Kerr, for that amazing interview, Sheldon. I don't know,
I could listen to that guy. Like they used to say about Labardius, like he talked about. I could listen to that guy read the phone book, right? Yeah. The legendary Rob Kerr, and he had such a big impact on our lives, and he gave us everything, right? Mentoring us through the early days, and he'll still give you the shirt off his back. And I'm just glad that he's found his way to a place where he's doing something that's really meaningful to him, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what we want, right? How do I make a living and exist on this earth where I feel like I'm actually doing something important, giving back? And this idea of his that he came up with and he's now put the team together, it's fantastic.
It's going to be big.
Bro, this can be big. And not that it's about being big. He wanted to have the gratification of doing something important. This is good work, and I think it's going to catch on.
Yeah, I think it will too. I love the Santa Rob. I love the Coach Rob. It's fantastic. For those of you, I don't think anyone's just tuning in, but tonight has been a great night so far. We had a big announcement talking about our live show coming up this Sunday at the Hitman's Bar, where we're going to be live from 12 till 2 p.m. on Sunday, November 17th, the pregame Grey Cup show. We're going to have some live guests, Stampeders, and we're going to stay throughout the day. So we'll be there for the pregame, for our show, the pregame, and the game. And obviously, the Hitman's Bar is not a party without the Hitman himself. He's going to be there. We've got some Stampeders joining us. We'd love for you guys to join us at the Hitman's Bar. Go on their website for tickets. It's going to be awesome. I don't know if you have to get tickets. I think you just got to reserve.
You're going to have to reserve. Yeah. And so, you're going to have to reserve. So,
and it's inside the Cowboys Casino. So Daryl just asked, where's the Hitman's Bar? Cowboys Casino downtown, just kitty corner to the Saddle Dome. It's right in the middle. It's a beautiful venue. If you've never been, gosh, the wrestling memorabilia up on the wall.
Awesome.
It's fantastic. Now, Sheldon, we said we won't have time to do everything. We were going to do studs and duds. We were going to do the blitz. Where do we want to go now?
I think let's go to the blitz.
All right, let's do the blitz.
Time for the Chevy and Nasty Blitz.
Okay, so we're gonna have to work on that a little bit, but isn't that cool, guys? So we added a few new little tricks to our to our page here, to our toolbox this week. So that's
I think we need that sound with the graphic. I think we need the sound. So our faces disappear and then the welcome to the blitz. Yeah, something like that. But then the sound goes over. So don't do it again, because otherwise that would be redundant. But
look at my arms.
They look good there.
Good picture. I don't know where you found that one.
It's the delts. Looks good. Okay,
all right,
the blitz. Let's go.
Let me ask you, John Cherry got canceled in 2019. We're in time of Remembrance Day for his pro poppy remarks about those people. But in the wake of ever-growing protests in Canada, including some people burning Canadian flags, shouting death to Canada, was Don Cherry martyred for a cause that maybe needs more attention? What's your take on that? Do you remember 2019?
Yeah, I remember, they took the phrase "you people" and they basically used that as, the cross he was crucified on, right? And The comment itself was a little insensitive because it definitely does draw the attention towards maybe marginalized people that aren't necessarily born in Canada. And I think it went away, but from probably his meaning. But what I'm seeing now with everything going on, I do believe he was martyred, but this cause needs attention. Obviously, Remembrance Day was yesterday. We're seeing that rise in ugly protests in Canada, foreign problems being fought out on Canadian soil, people burning Canadian flags, people shouting death to Canada. There was a University of York professor driving by a group of soldiers during the memorial yesterday in Toronto. Yeah. She was yelling all kinds of obscenities at them. I think it's a problem. I think Don Cherry was waving the flag to this problem, but I don't think it's something just with newcomers. I actually think it's even with people that were born here that are just a little bit too comfortable with their cars, their homes, their vacations, their possession. I think people have forgotten what this great nation was built on and their comforts that I don't see.
I'm going to take a take. It's one of those things I might get in trouble for saying it, right? Yeah. I'm going to try not to because I don't mean it in a hard way. Who canceled Don Cherry? Did New Canadians cancel Don Cherry?
No.
And let's be honest, they moved to Canada. They don't feel the feelings we had because we went to school with the ceremonies. We felt it. The poppy was something you wore on Remembrance Day. It was a big part of our contribution recognizing our Canadian history. Don Cherry said things because he's crass. Don Cherry was crass, but he wasn't wrong about the importance of integrating Canadians into this deep cultural appreciation of the veterans that stood for us. You talked about burning flags and driving by ceremonies, but do you even know, even in our schools today, in Nova Scotia, they sent out a letter to the veterans. Did you hear about this one? A newsletter went out to the veterans that would be attending the ceremony yesterday, saying, but please be mindful not to wear any of your uniforms because we're scared of triggering the kids. Yeah. That's what it's about. It's about maybe even being triggered a little bit, right? Yeah. Seeing that these are the people that stood on a line and defended our country, and a lot of their friends didn't come back.
But it's about education as well. When I go to a school, I go to a lot of the schools I spend time with are in the New Canadian communities. Fire prevention is a big there's a big target there, right? In terms of high risk populations, New Canadians. When I go in my blue uniform, that doesn't look like the firefighter suit you wear to fight a fire. When I go in my uniform, my station wear, we look like police officers. There's an aversion to our suit. The first thing, little kids, kindergarten kids, are you guys cops? And we have to educate them. And we talk about the Maltese cross. We talk about what it means. So
what if you were cops? So here's my problem. What if you were cops? We have to counter-educate them based off of where our schools are going now. Did you know in Toronto? Because I'm going to keep this with our soldiers.
Yeah, okay? No, absolutely. So I want to go back.
During a this should be by studs and duds. In a Toronto ceremony, they wanted to make it more inclusive, which is fine, right? You want to, that's what I'm talking about. Let's educate people so they all understand the great traditions and how much we honor our soldiers here. And they did that by playing a infamous song associated with the Palestinian resistance. That's on all the resistance videos. And they're playing that. Is it a school that was about 20% Jewish, 60% Muslim, and a bunch of other Canadian kids, your typical Toronto neighborhood. And they actually were playing Gazan protest songs. I am all for, if you believe that Gaza's getting the rough end of the deal there, go and protest. You're in Canada. You are allowed to. But the principal of the school mixed in a Gazan protest song during Remembrance Day ceremonies. This is what Don Cherry was alluding to. Yeah. Keep Remembrance Day to our soldiers and our veterans. Yeah. You are free to protest in any way. You're even allowed to yell at us and yell at the soldiers. You're allowed. It's disgusting, but you're allowed to in this country. But when you start having the school systems trying to change what the meaning of Remembrance Day was that we all grew up with, our parents grew up with, our kids grew up with, and now we're changing it. I do have a problem with that.
Yeah, no, I have a problem.
I love that you brought this one up.
So back to that question, I do think that Don Cherry was martyred for a cause that needs more attention. He was, and the context of that video, and I don't think we'll play it, Trey. I know we have it, but we don't have to play it. The long version of that video is he was talking about this, trying to play this video of him walking in Normandy, France, visiting the grave sites of Canadian soldiers, saying that people need to understand the sacrifices of these young 18 to 30-year-old guys that went to war and died for the freedoms that we have. And when he talked about, you know, we live so freely off the milk and honey of the land, I actually turned inwards and thought, you know what, as a society, not new Canadians, but as people, when we walk around, that what Rob Kerr said in the interview about we went from what's good for everyone to what's good for me after COVID, that is the loss of that understanding what that poppy means. That's not new Canadian society. That's what North American Canadian society has become. What's in it for me is the direct disconnect from what the poppy means for Canadians. So when I think back to Don Cherry's comments, I think about me. I think about, you know what? I haven't done enough to educate my kids because my kids got the, you know, they got the sports. They go to school. They don't fear war. They don't fear their freedoms. Have I done enough? And so I really think when I listen to Don Cherry's comments, if I take out the you people that I'm sure a lot of people took out of context, but it's very socially appropriate at that time to crucify the man for those words, the thought that we are disconnected from that sacrifice of the people who gave us these freedoms, that's what it means to me. And I think that is what we need to get back to.
Yeah. The other thing he also hate when people called the Memorial Cup the Mem Cup, he's like, it's not the Memorial. It's not the Mem Cup. It's the Memorial Cup. We are memorializing our fallen soldiers. Chev, next question.
49ers, San Francisco 49ers, Deebo Samuel got into kicker Jake Moody's face this week, and he missed 3 field goals in a row in their game against Tampa Bay. 49ers long snapper Tabor Pepper, good long snapper, you know, protecting his kicker, stands up for the kicker, tempers flared. Deebo Samuel put his hands on Tabor, the long snapper's neck, punch him in the face or something. It got ugly. Should Deebo have gone after his kicker in a game on the sidelines, or should the long snapper have gotten involved in someone else's argument? Sheldon, what do you think?
Well, you know, that's the thing about football. It truly is, you're a team, no doubt, but there's offense, defense, special teams. Like, to me, I'm like, yeah, I think Deebo was in the wrong for doing it. Like, first off, I think you got to focus on your offense. He's a receiver, focus on the offense. You guys got things to work out. He has nothing to do with the special teams. But when it comes to Tabor standing up for his kicker, yeah, I like that. Like, I think, you know, ask yourself if you're in the same shoes. If Deebo was picking on another receiver, I wouldn't jump in. That's between them. If he was arguing with the coach, I'd stay out of it. But if he came up to Brian Clark and got in his face, you know, I'd stand up for Clarky because we're on the defense. I think you're allowed to criticize and argue within your group. Going outside your group, picking on a kicker and a long snapper, like, I don't know. I think it's kind of pointless. It's a bad reflection on Deebo, although they're all highly competitive guys.
Yeah.
And, you know, Chev, you know this. It happens.
Yeah, it happens. I know he's apologized in a press conference today. He said he let it get better of him. He shouldn't have done it. So in hindsight, he did say bad. I've had to stick up for my kicker before too, but it wasn't against a teammate. It was usually against an opponent. I remember once getting to I was going to say, in a pregame warm-up, I got into Dave Stala, Hamilton Tiger Cats kicker, who was mocking our kicker and kind of chirping him. And then one day, Kerry Joseph and I almost got into a fist fight on the sidelines because he was getting mad at Rene Paredes for kicking kickoffs into his area, and it was just gamesmanship, you know. But I've never had to stick up for a teammate in front of another teammate. I haven't had that happen before to the degree that it happened with the 49ers on Sunday. But yeah, I think Deebo was wrong. I do like that the long snapper stuck up for his kicker. The kicker had to kick a game. He had to kick a game-winning kick. He had to know that someone had his back, right? So that could have been that long snapper standing up for him could have been the thing that gave him the confidence to go.
It's what keeps the special teams so tight and united. You got to be. Yeah, you do it for a defensive lineman when you're on the defensive line. You got to stand up for your kicker. Yeah. Oh, Chev, you got me this one. Milwaukee Bucks. You guys might have seen it this weekend.
Did you say his name?
I'll say Giannis, but Antetokounmpo
Yeah, sure.
stuck his hand out to shake the hands with Boston Celtic Jaylen Brown, then pulled it away last second. And afterwards, I think it was Jaden Brown that called him out and said that was a childish move, when clearly Giannis was just trying to have some fun with it. Is this just a case of kind of good gamesmanship? Is this something personal? Is this something that bothers you about what you see in the sport? It gets too disrespectful. What was your take on that? And Trey, actually, why don't you play the clip? Can we play the clip on this one?
Do we have the clip, Trey, of this one? I'm not too sure. Let's see.
I think I did a horrible job of describing it. Bottom line,
no clip.
No clip. Giannis came around with an elbow. These guys were boys back in the day. Came around with an elbow, absolutely flattened him. When the guy gets up, he offers a hand like, "Hey, man, good play," and pulls it away.
Yeah, he does
Chev, what's your take on that?
Yeah, you know what? So Jaden Brown called him a child and kind of went back and forth. Was it? I don't think it was a jerk. I mean, he was a 2-time MVP. But basketball's funny, right? They are so close quarter. There's no equipment. They're kind of bodied up against each other all game. It's a very intimate sport, right? These guys know each other. They're high-fiving, shaking hands all game. You do that to a guy, it's a pretty big insult. But I have to say that would be gamesmanship at its finest. I mean, he got under his skin, right? I mean, maybe he didn't get under his skin, but they're definitely not going to be shaking hands for a while. Maybe they'll talk in the off season, but I think it's gamesmanship. Childish. I've seen different things.
I think it's gamesmanship the other way. I think the one guy's trying to laugh it off, and the other guy then gives it back to him and calls him childish. So I think it was reverse gamesmanship, but I think it is harmless because, in fact, as a fan, it's kind of like when you watch, the big thing in the NHL right now, the death stare, where they stare down his fan. Yeah. I think it's fun, right? Yeah. I think it's fun. I thought it was fine. Non-issue.
Well, listen, Sheldon, we're going to move on. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers are headed to the Grey Cup. So are the Toronto Argonauts. However, the Boatmen will be without quarterback Chad Kelly, whose leg almost fell off in the game against the Alouettes this weekend. Yeah. Can the Argos pull off a Grey Cup upset in BC without Chad Kelly at the helm? Or is Winnipeg going to be planning that parade down Portage in Maine as of today?
Well, let me ask you this, Chev. I'm going to throw it back a question with a question. Name me one quarterback in the CFL history who's ever stepped in as a backup and won the Grey Cup.
I don't know.
You can name that. You can name me one. His name's Chad Kelly. He's right there on the screen, and he's got a broken leg.
There you go.
Every other game has been ended in disaster. There's only one guy that could have gotten through this, but he just broke his leg. So, is it possible? Yeah, the defense is looking good. Arbuckle did a nice job in the second half.
Hey, is this PTSD for Ryan Dinwiddie, the Argos head coach, who was the backup quarterback to Kevin Glenn, and
he was terrible, but he was young then, right? He was young. They actually almost still had a chance to win it because Kerry Joseph probably played the worst performance in Grey Cup history that year.
Well, let's take it to this game. Do the Argos have a chance, or
Winnipeg? There's always a chance, but Arbuckle's going to have to play the game of his life. They're going to have to run the ball like they've never run it before, and Toronto defense is going to have to do something to confuse the hell out of Collaros. Last week, Collaros looked good. I think this is one of those years, Chev, where it's a foregone conclusion unless something crazy happens in the week of practice and Winnipeg loses star.
Yeah, I don't know. We got lots going on with the CFL. I'm not sure. I haven't made up my mind yet to see who I'm going to pick. I know Jamin wants us to put in a pick. Where are we sitting at now with our picks anyways? Like, I got to figure out where we're at with our picks. I think we're even going into this one. I believe that we both have we both picked evenly. I think.
Yeah, I went on the limb and picked both road teams. So I picked the Riders, which was a fail for me. And I picked Toronto, which actually I thought the Riders had a chance.
Yeah, I picked Montreal. I thought Montreal was not going to win in that environment, and they kind of pissed it away. A lot of fumbles, just a lot of sloppy play, and Toronto took advantage. And they held on once Chad Kelly got hurt. And then, I just knew that Winnipeg was going to be the Winnipeg that's peaking at the right time. We're both 2-2. We're going to have to make a pick, but we're not making it tonight. We're not making the pick tonight because we are going to be live. We have another opportunity before the game is played. We have an opportunity to collect some information, to see what's going on, to see if anyone gets hurt this week. You know, there's always that guy that gets hurt 2 days before the Grey Cup, and he's an impact player. We want to know everything that goes on this week before we make a pick. And how you're going to find out our picks is either you're going to come down to the Hitman Bar on Sunday afternoon between 12 and 2 p.m., and you're going to listen to our show live. You're going to interact with us. We'll come shake your hands. We're going to have some Stampeders there talking and breaking down the Grey Cup, or you're going to listen. You're going to listen from home. It's a big deal. The Grey Cup is Canada's game. It's only played in Canada. This is our game. It's the oldest trophy in North America, the Grey Cup. I've been fortunate to have my name on it 3 times. It's pretty awesome. We're so jacked. I know Sheldon doesn't like when I rub that in, but you know what? You guys always take your shots at me. We're so jacked to be going to the Hitman Bar to do the show. We're going to do our predictions then. Sheldon, do we have anything else to add for tonight? It's 2:24. We got 5 minutes left. Where do you want to go, or do you want to say good night? It's up to you. I'm following you on the ride.
Guys, I'll tell you what, any of you guys that stuck with us till the end, we appreciate it. Those of you guys that are watching this tomorrow or listening in your vehicle during your commute, guys, I hope you enjoyed the show. This was exciting for us. Chevy and I are picking up our game. We tried a few new things. I hope you liked the voiceover, because we found this awesome voiceover guy that did all those little bits for us, and we're going to keep growing those as we go along. But most of all, Chris Wiggins, Rob Evans, Daryl, all you guys that stuck along, that followed along for the show. Guys, we really appreciate you, but I think we're going to have to wait until Sunday at Hitman's doing our pregame show of the Grey Cup. I hope we see you guys there. If you can't make it to the show to watch it live, I hope you're listening to it live and getting all geared up for the big game on Sunday.
Yeah, it's going to be